Well, welcome to GAN TV. My name is Malik Lenzonzo. As you already know, this show have been a little quiet for quite some time. And, today, since today is one of the most important day for Africa, for some countries in Africa, Rwanda and Congo is one of them. And as you already know, President Trump has definitely make a deal. We can call it a historical deal between the Congo and Rwanda. So what I'm going to have now is my two best political analysts. One's from the United States, Mr. Paul Pomfrey, and the other one is actually from Paris, France, Mr. Moto, to kind of give us, their perspective on this deal. I'm going to start with Mr. Paul. Mr. Paul, welcome back to the show, my friend. It's been a long time. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you again.
Absolutely. Mr. Mutu, also, I want to welcome you, my friend, back to Paris. You've been on this network. You have your own show called, what's the name again in French? Excellent. Absolutely. I'm so glad to see you both back on the show. We're going to be talking about this deal, this Trump deal, about, the Congo and Rwanda. Now, Mr. Paul, you are one of the most present person when it comes to, Congolese, politics abroad. You are one of the co-founder of the Friend of Congo, if I'm not mistaken. Now,
that is correct.
For this long, we never see an American president have the courage to take the deal to the end, like Mr. Trump. Now, both of us, we know, I'm a Democrat. You probably have the Democratic tendency. You're not a Republican, as far as I know. Do you think this is a good deal? Or maybe you can give us just a little perspective, a little background on what's going on here. What should we know, Mr. Paul?
Okay. First thing, let's be clear about what this deal is all about. The Congo has a great deal of the raw materials needed in today's electronic world. It has about 60% of all the coltan, which is tantalite, which is the mineral used in sophisticated electronics, cell phones, laptops, anything that has sophisticated electronics. And what does it do different than what was before? Before, if you had a computer, you had to have a fan in it to keep the components cooled. If you had a TV, you had to have a large box to put the TV components in to give the chance to cool off the electronic components. Coltan allowed electronics to operate without building up a great deal of heat. So that meant that, in fact, you could have computers not in a tower anymore, but have a computer in a laptop, or to have a cell phone and something you could hold in the palm of your hand. That was the big value of coltan to the electronic industry. Then you're looking at the fact of now you have the need for storing of electricity. And cobalt becomes essential in being able to store a large amount of electricity in batteries and hold the electricity for a long period of time. The Congo happens to have about 58% of the world's cobalt. So just these two minerals alone means whoever controls those minerals can pretty much control the electronic industry, because you really can't make the batteries for your cell phone or for your cars and for your battery packs that you put on your solar panels on your house without the cobalt. And you certainly can't make your cell phones, your laptops, your large flat screen TVs without the coltan. So these are very, very important elements that are used in the making of these products, which means that they have a tremendous amount of value. But we need to be also very clear. There should be something else to be pointed out.
Okay.
The products in their raw form is a small fraction of the value of those products after they are refined. So no matter what type of money that the Congo makes off of selling these raw materials, if they're not refining these raw materials, they're losing in the deal, because whoever ends up doing the refining of these raw materials will make multiple 10 times, 20 times, 30 times the value of what they end up paying for the raw materials itself. And so that in itself makes this not a good deal for the people of the Congo. It certainly does make a big deal for the corporations in the United States and who ends up with the raw material to refine it themselves. But it does not solve many of the problems that's right now in the Congo. And even though you had this very valuable raw product, and I think if you look at what's going on in Burkina Faso and why the economic miracle is happening in Burkina Faso today, it's because they chose to refine their gold. They chose.
But technically, here's what I want to put, a question that I want to put here on this table. All of this information, we've been knowing this for years, Mr. Paul. Administration after administration in the United States, Democrats, Republican, for years we all know about this information. So literally, what I'm trying to say is, let's give some credit to Mr. Trump for at least, reacting or responding to this. Is Tshisekedi himself wanted to have this deal. It begged the president of the United States to have this deal. So my question is...
Well, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you on that, because let's be clear. The people of the Congo, in choosing their head of state, the last head of state in the Congo that was actually chosen by the people of the Congo was Patrice Lumumba. After that, you had Mobutu, who was there for several years. And most people know that Mobutu was not the president of choice for the people of the Congo, but they manipulated the election, and he stayed in power. But then when the United States realized the coltan and the cobalt and the tin was in the Congo, and that they would in fact empower whatever country controls that raw material that could make it to refine it into the products that are needed in the electronic industry, that would really greatly increase the wealth of whatever country that did that. They came up with a plan. And the plan was, how do we now take control over these natural resources? And that plan led to the United States orchestrating the war in Rwanda that brought Paul Kagame to power. Most people don't even know that Paul Kagame grew up not in Rwanda, but in Uganda. And between the time he was in Uganda to come into Rwanda as president, he was in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, USA, being trained by the CIA. And so, one point I'm making is this: that war against the Congolese people.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I want to get to our friend. He's been patient about the whole thing. Here's my point. We have a 30-some years conflict. And some expert would talk about more than an Holocaust in the this conflict in Congo. We have lost so many people in Congo, and people say, some experts are saying this is it's worse than the Holocaust in terms of number of people lying.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
We've seen the so-called international community. We've seen the UN going to the Congo, no results. We've seen the United States administration after administration, Democrat and Republican alike, and we've seen no results.
Why? The question to be asked: why?
Yeah, no, I'm, just give me a second. So all of a sudden, I'm talking to you, Mr. Botu, right now. All of a sudden, you see Mr. Trump. There apparently, most people disagree with, some of the stuff he does, but he is the one who actually is, for the first time in history, is putting these two presidents, putting them face to face, and have a deal. So, should we give Mr. Trump credit for it? Or I think is just like a deal, like my friend Paul is saying.
Yeah, I think that's Paul is right. You're right as well. Giving Mr. Trump a credit for just kind of stopping this war that has been going on for, like you said, 30 years, more than 30 years, and more than 20 million people. More than 20 million people. That's huge. I mean, you're giving him credit for kind of stopping that wars going on. On the other side, what Paul was saying, it's about the raw materials. Who is benefiting from the raw materials? It's not Congolese people, I think. That's what he's saying. Because, as he said, if you're not refining your minerals, I mean, the money is going to the country that's refining it. And that's what he wanted to say. That to a certain extent, I mean, the Americans, it's not really the Congolese who are benefiting from that signature, that deal between Rwanda and the DRC Congo. And kudos to Paul, because he knows really the history of Congo. Taking up back to Mobutu was actually a CIA agent, as well as all the things he really knows, the history of this country. And the country is very central. You know that geographically, this country is the Central Africa. I'm thinking about Sheikh Anta Diop, the scholar Sheikh Anta Diop. He said that the country that's going to control the DRC Congo is going to control the whole world, because that's where you have raw material. I mean, all kind of raw material. We only know that you said coltan and cobalt, about 60% of the world cobalt. That's huge, you see. And you understand, and I appreciate, I really like what he said, that Kagame is, he grew up in Uganda. And you know that Uganda and Kagame and Museveni are really close. And they are kind of, people say that they are American agents, you see. And that's, they've been going on and on this world in the Eastern Congo, killing kids, women and children and so on, only for the benefit of their country, actually for the US, he said. And to a certain extent, we're going to give credit to Mr. Trump for signing it and, I mean, stopping the war, stopping killing people. Hopefully it's going to last. I mean, hopefully the day is going to last. And yeah, I think that's both of you guys are right.
Absolutely, Mr. Motu. I'm going to get back to my friend Paul here. And I do understand your perspective, sir, because you always been somebody with a more deeper understanding of the historical situation, and I don't blame you if you suspect that this is probably a bad deal that the Congo is having. But put things in perspective, and trying to be in somebody's foot. You know, Mr. Chise said at one point have to just, like people say, cut this deal with the devil. Because when you embrace America, in this kind of deal, there's no going back. They're coming full force into whatever you have over there. And there will be no going back. And I do understand that. But given that situation of maybe not a good deal, and the situation that we know right now of, mass killing, no stability, political stability, that means also a lack of investment in the country. What would these leaders do, especially Tshisekedi, in this situation? What do you think it could possibly do in a country where it's difficult to be to run, because it's always trouble, because always war, because war, it's always people in Rwanda, troublemakers, killing the Congolese people. What could have been the better deal? Because it looks like no better options. So stopping the war by the American people.
Let me answer your question. You say what could be a better deal? The first part of it is this: where did Rwanda get its weapons from? Does Rwanda make tanks? Does Rwanda make grenade launchers? Does Rwanda make machine guns? No, they don't.
Yeah.
So where are these weapons coming from? These weapons were coming from the United States and NATO nations. Now, why were they supplying them weapons and carry out these atrocities inside the Congo in the first place? Because their goal was, and that was United States along with the European Union, their goal was to have access to these raw materials so that the wealth of Africa goes to them and not to serve the interests of the people of Africa. That was very clear from the very beginning. This is why the United States put Paul Kagame to Fort Leavenworth to train him on how to carry out a war against the people of the Congo. And so the bloodbath we saw in 1994 in Rwanda was really something that was set up by the United States to bring Paul Kagame into office. Why? He was brought into office specifically for this date you just got through talking about, where the United States would sign over its raw materials, exclusive rights to the U.S. businesses so they could rob the people of the Congo. And that is not something to celebrate, because that's a major setback for Africa. We're talking about trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars worth of resources that could be used to rebuild Africa and bring Africa into the modern world, not just the Congo, but Africa itself. And that has now been given away to the United States. And it's not even going to benefit the majority of the people of the United States. It's going to benefit the owners of the electronic industry and the battery industries and the car industries of the United States and the European Union. So I don't see how one can define that as a major victory for Africa, to have Africa once again being plundered for its natural resources by a scheme that was set up by the United States and the NATO nations. It was called armed robbery. They use arms using the government of Rwanda and the government of Uganda to force this so-called agreement. And we must also remember one thing else. We can't leave the Democratic Party out of it. What was the last international trip that Biden took before he left office? It was to Angola. Now, why was he going to Angola in the first place? To set up a train system to go from the ports of Angola on the Atlantic coast through the copper belt of Zambia and into the southern part of the Congo, which is the copper belt of the Congo, over to the eastern part of the Congo where the coltan and the cobalt is located. Why is that? Because they knew at this point most of the coltan and cobalt leaving the eastern part of the Congo is taken out by air, which means only a small amount of these raw materials can be taken out at a time. But when you can bring a train system into that part of the Congo, that means you can bring out hundreds of times more of these raw materials at a much faster pace. And that is what the goal that both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party had from the very beginning. And that is exploiting and robbing the natural resources of Africa, and in particular that of the Congo. So I don't see this as a thing to celebrate at all. I see this as a major loss to the future of a developed Africa.
So you, Paul, if I may, so you're thinking that, currently you see that, currently it's kind of positive, but when you look into the future, you think there's going to be something really negative for the African people, precisely people in the Congo. That's what you want to say, right?
Well, a good example.
Yeah.
You will find most of the diamonds in the world located in different parts of Africa.
Oh, yeah.
But where's the wealth made off of diamonds? What country is the largest cutters of diamonds in the world today? Israel. How many diamond mines are in Israel? 0. But Israel benefits from the diamonds coming out of Africa. And the De Beers is benefiting from the diamonds coming out of Africa.
So Paul, I just want to ask her. I mean, this is deep. That's really deep. I mean, when I'm listening to kind of listening to a lesson on geopolitical situation in that part of Africa. So now I understand the link between Kagame and Israel. They are kind of Rwanda and Israel are kind of really close friend. I mean, Kagame and Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel. And now I understand that's a link between these two countries. Oh, I didn't know. That's blowing my mind.
Kagame has been a tool.
Yeah.
Okay, has been a tool of the European Union in their efforts of exploiting Africa in general and Congo in particular. In fact, this is why you find that the U.S. and Europe funds so many of the operations of the AU in which they use the army of Rwanda to be the military arm and dealing with conflicts throughout Africa, because they are a tool of the European Union and the United States and Israel.
Okay, so I do like the kind of a connection that Mr. Mutu is making between these two countries, Rwanda and Israel, and your perspective being that the bottom line being that the Congolese are having a bad deal because this deal is not going to benefit the people of Congo, because in the end, those materials, natural resources that will be exploited will benefit the American corporation and all that. But my original question was to say that we have a 30 years conflict, and guys know how many families have been displaced, how many kids, women, and children have been displaced to do stuff. We also know the empire. America is an empire. We got to admit that. There's no question about it. It's playing on both sides. We know that the capacity that this country called Rwanda, the capacity that Rwanda is having in this game is because they are backed up by the United States. So Mr. Tshisekedi found himself, is back against the wall. So at this point,
let's be clear. Tshisekedi was also backed by the United States because, in fact, the United States manipulated the election in the Congo to put Tshisekedi in power in the first place.
Okay, so
let's be clear. The people of the Congo did not choose Tshisekedi. United States and the European Union chose Tshisekedi. Why? Because they wanted this deal to be made.
Okay. So basically, they have the man, because I've seen when I was in Washington D.C. I've seen Tshisekedi many times before he became president. He was coming to D.C. for the most part. I saw him, hanging out around D.C., probably making deals or kind of stuff. So the fact of the matter is, the Congolese people have to understand that, of course, there will be some kind of deal, a peace deal, as they call it. But in long term, they're just going to find out that it's not to their favor. This is a deal.
How does slavery favor the Congolese people? Explain that to me, please. How does slavery benefit the Congolese people as they're being totally robbed?
No. My question is, I'm not saying this is a good deal. I was just saying.
You just said it favors the Congolese people. How does it favor them?
No. I say in long run, the Congolese people will find out that this deal don't favor them, because in the end, it's going to be a lot of American corporations continue to exploit and get the big return on this investment, whatever this deal is talking about. But the bottom line is, we have to also understand the humanitarian part of it, Mr. Paul. And I'm going to bring Mr. Mutu here to try and give his perspective on this humanitarian aspect of this. We are talking about a conflict that is beyond, and I mean it, beyond the Holocaust. Mm-hmm. The Congolese Holocaust is, I don't know if it's 10 times bigger than the one we know in Germany. So should we just sit down there and say, you know what? we're going to wait until a perfect deal come on the table. Or I think Mr. Tshisekedi have to do what he have to do in order to bring some peace in this country.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, you're right to a certain extent. You're saying it's bringing an end to that war that's been going on for years and years and years, and millions of people. You said it's right that families been displaced, people have been killed, children, women, and on and on. I think let's take it further. I mean, let's take it now and think we're going to see how we can get out of that deal later. I don't know if possible to get out of the deal in the future, because as you said, signing with the United States is going to be complicated to get away from that deal in the future. So what the president is going to do? And as Paul said, Tshisekedi was chosen by the European Union and the US, and hopefully, I think that the coming generations are going to realize, as you said, it has been a bad deal for them, for the country, for the Congolese, and it's only for the benefit of U.S. corporations. And hopefully, they're going to change it. But it's going to be maybe things going to be complicated. But I do understand, as I said at the beginning, I understand that for just bringing an end to that war that's been killed for millions of people. Yeah, we kind of maybe not celebrate. Maybe I think that I understand the word celebrating. Maybe not celebrating. We're gonna say, okay, we're gonna rest a little bit. But Paul, what do you think the president Tshisekedi is gonna do? Or maybe when Congolese is gonna vote for their own president? If I did understand you well, you said that Tshisekedi was chosen by U.S. and European Union. Maybe when they're going to have their own president, a president that they voted for, maybe that president is going to bring in a real deal with, I don't know what business partner, where the United States or other countries in the world.
So Paul, before, hold on that thought. I think what Mr. Mutu here trying to say is trying to understand I'm trying to reframe his question because I have the same idea. I wanted you to bring your answer into a perspective. Look, Saudi Arabia, for example. We know the Saudi Arabia and the United States relationship is based on oil. They have cheap oil. But the leadership of Saudi Arabia have made the best out of whatever they got to that deal. They give to the United States cheap oil. So the United States corporation come and export the oil, whatever cheap oil, but the leadership in the country have made best out of whatever they have out of the deal. So my expectation would be, it doesn't matter what is Tshisekedi is in power. Can Tshisekedi use this deal to make the best out of it? And you probably tell me, oh, Miss Malik, how come a slave make a good thing out of the situation? Listen, in the United States, we have our brother and sister that went to the United States as a slave. But you know what? These are the people that made out of the suffering. We have all the genius, whatever we have today that Black people have produced, the jazz, the everything that you know. So yes, it's probably in long term a bad deal. But can the leadership in Congo turn this bad deal into something that will give some kind of air? I think this is what Mr. Mutu wants to suggest. Can this deal give some kind of, can the Congolese people breathe at least for this moment?
May I respond?
You go ahead, sir.
First, when you talk about Saudi Arabia, let's look at how many people have been killed in Yemen by Saudi Arabia getting weapons from the United States and military assistance from the United States. Wait a minute, you brought up Yemen. You brought up Saudi Arabia. So let's talk about Saudi Arabia. You're talking about how good Saudi Arabia is doing, okay, with its relationships with the United States. And what are they doing? They've been killing thousands of people in Yemen, only because they wanted justice inside of Yemen and they did not want to be under the control of Saudi Arabia. So, yes, when you start looking at the deals that United States cut, and you have to ask, for what purpose are they cutting these deals? And where is Saudi Arabia in its relationship with the Palestinian people who are being starved and killed today? How is it the deal the United States created with Saudi Arabia has benefited stopping the genocide that's happening right now in Gaza and the West Bank? It hasn't. So, again, we have to ask, good deal for whom? Okay? Because it's not a good deal for the people in the area. It's not a good deal for the people of the Congo, again, to be a country as rich as it is today that don't even have roads from the eastern part of the Congo to the central part of the Congo. If you want to travel to the central part of the Congo, you have to fly. How is this deal going to benefit the people of the Congo? I can tell you how it will, in fact, make misery continue to happen in the Congo, because the wealth of the Congo will be taken out in very fast level by them being able to build that train line there. They're not only going to steal out from the eastern part of the Congo, but they're going to steal out of the southern part of the Congo. The United States has used the Congo as its piggy bank. When we look at the people who've lost their lives inside the Congo, ask yourself the question, where did the weapons come from that Uganda and Rwanda used to kill the people in the Congo? It came from the United States. And why did they come from the United States? Because the United States wanted to rob those resources out of the Congo. And now now you have a situation where the U.S. gets rewarded for robbing the people out of the Congo, and you say that's a good deal? No, you don't consider a good deal when people have been robbed. And then you're going to sit back and cheer on the fact that the thief is the one that we should share the deal because the thief has won by killing the people of the Congo. You keep talking about how many people lost their lives. They lost their lives because of the United States. And this society is still involved in the Congo.
To be honest, I think there is a little bit of a confusion here. I'm not. What I'm saying, with due respect to your struggle, if there's somebody that we need to give credit, it's you. Credit, for standing with the people of the Congo for all these years. If there's credit, honestly, you have the full credit. Because I recognize your efforts, you being on your foot on the ground. Understand that, but you also understand that no matter what effort you have put in the Congo up to this point, let's be honest, things never change.
And why? And why is that? One of the reasons why it hasn't changed is that the people of the United States still at this point, act as confused as you're presenting this case today. You're seeing this as a positive effort, when in fact, the media of the United States has been silent about the deaths of the people of the Congo. In fact, the people of the United States have not been informed about how their tax dollars have been used to rob the people of the Congo. And so we need to be very clear as to what's really happening in this situation. We're living in a situation where, in fact, the United States, through its media and through its government,
I give you time to talk. Just let me make my point, Mr. Paul. Listen, we might say something, we might agree on something, but I just want you to pay attention to the nuance, and I probably will bring my friend Mutu to the screen. Here's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, for 30 years, and this prior to Mr. Trump coming to power, and I can tell you, I'm not a Republican. I'm Democrat. So naturally, I will tell you that I disagree with a lot of the Republican politics. We agree on that. Here's my point. I'm saying, look, for 10 years, and you're right, the media, the politics in Washington have completely ignored what's going on in the Congo. And here comes Mr. Trump that we mostly don't like. We don't like his style of politics or whatever he's doing. But I'm just telling you guys, listen, the proof is in the pudding. The man just brought these two leaders together and have some kind of deal. Is this good a perfect deal? I don't think. To my experience in politics, almost 15 years in American politics, I never literally see a perfect deal. And the reason why I'm not going to bring Mr. Muntu to the screen is to tell him, even his own country, Gabon, since the 60s, we have the so-called independence where France gave the independence to the so-called Francophone countries, Gabon being one of them. But it was not a perfect deal. It was not a good deal because the French industry, oil industry, got the most out of this so-called deal, But guess what? Sometimes it falls into the leadership itself. Did the leadership in Gabon took whatever they have and trying to make the best out of it? No. What did the leadership did? They took most of the money, put it into the pocket, never trying to develop the country or do something out of it. So, Mr. Muntu, I'm going to bring you here because you can at least maybe give your perspective on that.
I think I do understand you. As I said, I do understand Brother Paul as well. You want to put things into perspective. I think that's talking to what Paul was saying. Somebody who has a deep understanding of the geopolitical situation in Central Africa, that region of the Congo, Uganda, Rwanda, and so on, as Paul has. I think that's he understands all the links. He understands even the signing of a deal as the one Mr. Trump signed between the Congo, DRC, and Rwanda. And you asked him the question how to get the best, to make the best out of that deal. What can we do? And when Brother Paul comes, I've got a question, Paul, for you. If you were like Tshisekedi political advisor, what kind of advice? How would you advise him? What kind of tips would you give him when it comes to deal? What should he do?
Well, I look at the examples that were set in Burkina Faso when they had terrorists, which is what's happening in the Congo, terrorists coming in from Uganda and Rwanda, coming through their borders. What did they do? They looked for countries that were willing to work with them in defending their country's sovereignty. You don't go and cut deals with the very forces that are working on behalf of to have these enemies that are attacking your country be the ones that they're working on behalf. Because see, Uganda and Rwanda were working on behalf of the United States. And so why would you turn around and then reward the United States rather than look, there's other countries in this world that are willing to give the legitimate support that an independent country deserves and stopping the unnecessary violence and stop the armed robbery. You don't sit back there and say, after you've had the armed robbery, okay, we now cut the deal with the robber himself, and then reward the robber for telling his assistant who's carrying out the violence, stop the violence. Because the whole reason for the violence in the first place was that the robber wanted access to your raw materials at a very cheap price. And you didn't around and gave it to him.
Mr. Paul, who actually have the technology, the power to transform all these natural resources? I think it's the same. It's the United States. So if you say, do we have no? And I see you shaking your head, sir. My thing is, the question that Mr. Mutu is asking you is essential. It's
Okay,
literally
but let me answer. Then let me
is-
answer the question. You asked me the question. Let me answer it.
no.
Okay.
He said to his with respect to his question, he was saying actually at this point, at this moment, after we saw the carnage, 10 years is not 30 days. 30 years of killing, head chopping, robbery. Can we at least say, okay, you know what? Let's see inside of this deal, because what we should have done before we go into judging about what is this deal is bogus or whatever. It's really, because the next time I'm going to call you around here is when we actually see what is it inside this deal. At least we can see that there's a portion of it that could possibly benefit the Congolese people. But we can just say this is bad deal, this is a robbery, when we know that there's not better options, Mr. Paul. Look at the humanity behind it. Do you want the Congolese people to continue to die, or at least we can put a stop on it, understanding that America is playing both sides of the equation? That we don't.
How did Burkina Faso bring it in and brought down the amount of violence put against its people in its northern border? How did they do that?
By kicking the butt of France, and
they not only kicked out the French, they also formed alliances with other countries that trained their soldiers on how to properly fight against the invaders. They bought drones, to address the issue of the invaders. All right. They did a number of things that allowed them to have an advantage over the invaders. Tshisekedi did none of that. None of it. He did not look for partners. They were willing to work with the Congolese people and the Congolese army to go after M23. He did none of that because he was chosen. Very specifically chosen by the United States and the European Union to be in the very position he's in today, where they could legitimize the robbing of the Congo and the mass slaughter of the Congo that's been going on since 1996. That's why I can't see this as how one can see this as victory for the people of the Congo. When you're seeing so many people of the Congo that have been destroyed, their lives have been destroyed. How are you seeing children crawling into tunnels to get the cobalt out and poisoning themselves and having tunnels collapse on top of them? Why was this? So that you could have, Trump's old buddy celebrate how cheap he can build his batteries for his car? No, you don't reward the very enemies that has carried out the genocide. That would be like someone rewarding Hitler for carrying out the genocide against the Jews. If Hitler agreed to stop the war.
Your point is well taken, man. Point was well taken.
Absolutely. I want to talk. Maybe I think this a strategic deal will be for the DRC president, Mr. Tshisekedi, to sign with like Russia. A lot of people, a lot of Africans are kind of encouraging Mr. Tshisekedi to sign because they think that Russia is kind of is a trustworthy partner. And when you see with what's going on in the Western Africa with the alliance of Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali, why not, sign a deal with Russia so that to strengthen its military, so they can cut deal with, for example, the U.S., Rwanda, and Uganda, and bring that an end to that war that's going on, and then maybe, as you said, to think about how we're going to transform our own raw material. Let me bring something that Malik said about Gabon. A few days ago, we were talking with friends because my friend here was saying, okay, the new president in Gabon said that we're not going to export our raw material. We're going to transform it here. And a friend of mine sent me a video of a French CEO lady. She's a CEO of I don't know what company here. That CEO lady said, "Oh, Gabon cannot do it because they don't have this, they don't have this." And some of my friends are siding with that lady, saying that in Gabon we don't have this, we cannot transform our raw material. I say, what? So you're giving credit to that lady because it's a business thing. She's doing it because she wants Gabon to export this raw material in France, so they're going to be transformed here in France. Personally, I don't want. I want us to train engineers so that we can transform all this raw material back home, and we're gonna benefit all raw material. And so we got a deal. We got a talk with very tense talk with my friends over here about transforming our own raw materials here. But I think that the deal would be, to maybe sign a deal, military deal with Russia. I think because whether the European Union or the United States, the same. They're the same people. And
but you know, Mr. Moto, I think your point is well taken. Here's my thing. I keep going back to the 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
We have, before Chickasedy, we have other presidents, and we still have Russia. And nothing happened, sir. For 30 years, we've seen our brothers and sisters being displaced, killed, drawn into the mud, all of this stuff. We've seen all of this.
Which government of the Congo, wait a minute, which government of the Congo asked Russia for any help?
No government. No government.
Yeah. No government. The Congo can, Russia can't just come in this country and just start shooting or defending a country that the government itself doesn't ask them to do so.
Russia is aware of what's going on.
What are they aware? Under international law, they could not enter the country of the Congo without the government of the Congo requesting it, without breaking the law.
Keep in mind, right now, what we have is just an agreement between Rwanda and Congo to kind of stop killing each other.
And by the way, this agreement you're talking about, both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party wrote this agreement up a while back. And the reason why they just did it was because, they had Rwanda and M23 do this last push. But let's be clear. You had UN special forces there, peacekeeping forces there. And it was the United States. It was the United States. Wait a minute, let me finish my point. It was the United States and the Security Council that wrote into the agreement that the UN forces could not use their weapons against M23 or Rwanda or Uganda. They could only use them against them if they pointed their weapons towards the UN forces. So the UN forces, if they sat there and saw Uganda and Rwanda coming to kill children, the only thing they could do was write it down on a piece of paper. They could not use their weapons to help defend them. Let's be clear about what the United States decided to do with its veto power at the UN Security Council. And so you have all these UN forces there. They had their hands tied as far as defending the people of the Congo, because the United States said the only way they would allow them to go there without vetoing it is that they would have to agree not to use their weapons against Uganda, Rwanda, or M23 if they saw them attacking Congolese. They could only use their weapons if they were attacking the UN forces. Let's be clear about what the U.S. did there.
Okay, fantastic. I'm going to let you, Mr. Mutu.
Go ahead.
You have a quote that you wanted to illustrate to the light of this conversation. And as you already know, 1 minute before the end of the show, I'm going to let you make your quote, make your statement, and then I'm going to bring my friend Paul to make his statement so that we can get out of from this show. Okay.
Thank you, Brother Malik. I think that's you're my brother. What you've been doing not only for Gabon, for Africa, with the GAN TV. You really you're doing a great job bringing different voices to give their opinion on Africa everything that's deals with Africa, so that African children say what they think, how to improve things in Africa. And I cannot stop thanking you for what you're doing. Thank you very much. I just want to quote Dr. Leonard Jeffries, who said that whoever controls the African minds controls the African minds. So which means that we got to educate our people about the strategy, about our history, about countries coming to Africa to plunder, as Brother Paul said, to plunder Africa. We got to know the links, to get the geopolitical situations, to get to know who's on which side, who's really helping us, who's disguised as a helper, but actually is not helping us. He's kind of stabbing us in the back because he wants to take our raw materials. And Africa is the most gifted continent. So I think we got to train African minds so that in the future we no longer going to be robbed by the same people for centuries again and again. So education is very, very important. I think to a certain extent, that's what Dr. Leonard Jeffrey said in the quote I've just mentioned. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, my friend Mutu. Always. And I know you will come back with your show under the baobab. I mean, people still miss that show, and I'm glad you're going to bring the show back, as, Gen TV is back on the block. Now, we're going to bring our friend, the one and only, Mr. Paul Pomfrey. Your last statement, wrap it up. Tell me everything.
My last statement is this. The United States government is a criminal government that has been robbing Africa for almost as long as Europe has been robbing Africa. And we here in the United States need to be making ourselves more aware of what the real role the U.S. government plays, especially in the Security Council, as they tie the hands of the UN peacekeeping forces inside of the Congo. This is why in Goma last year, South African soldiers were being killed, because the only time the peacekeeping forces could even use their weapons was when the weapons from the M23 in Rwanda and Uganda was actually in direct conflict with them. And so you have a situation where you have this unfair approach, undemocratic approach done by the United States. If the United States was sincere about the people of the Congo, they would have allowed the UN peacekeeping forces to use their weapons to protect the people of the Congo. And the US used their veto power at the United Nations Security Council to block them from being able to do that. So let's be clear, the role of the US government, both Democrats and Republicans, they're not there to serve the interests of the people of humanity or the people of Africa.
Absolutely. Listen, gentlemen, this has been a good conversation, and I hope the people that watch here and abroad, this show can give us their comments and what they feel about this deal of the United States between the Congo and the and Rwanda. And Rwanda, like I said. And I think this is going to be an ongoing conversation. It's not going to stop here as we dip down into the specific of this deal. I think we're going to have more material to talk about. So I want to thank you guys again for coming on the show. As always, you stay in peace, and I love you, everybody from France and from Washington D.C. I look forward to speak with you guys. So thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you very much.